Hey everyone. You ever just stop and think about your brain? I mean, it's wild.
It really is.
We've learned more about it lately than ever before, like it's exploding with new info.
Mm.
So today, we're going deep on brain facts. Using 72 amazing human brain facts, we are going to try to get inside our own heads. Metaphorically, of course.
And let me tell you, forget those tired old facts everyone thinks they know. We're busting myths and getting into the really wild stuff.
Perfect. Okay, so hit me with it. What's a brain fact that'll blow our minds?
Okay, how about this? Your brain, right, it's only about 2% of your body weight.
Tiny.
Tiny. But it uses a whopping 20% of your daily energy.
Seriously, no wonder I'm exhausted after a day of work. That's a lot of energy.
It's a demanding organ. It's nonstop neurons firing, making connections. It's running the show. And all that takes serious fuel, obviously. Which, by the way, fun fact, did you know your brain is 73% water?
Wait, really? So that's why I can't think straight when I'm dehydrated.
Ding, ding, ding. Even a little dehydration, and your brain's like, nope, can't focus, can't remember.
It's like my brain is a dried up sponge. I need to drink more water. Okay, you ready for another one? This one blew me away. 60% of the brain is fat.
Fat, the fattiest. But important to remember, not the bad kind of fat. This is essential fat. Like protects your neurons, keeps the signals moving fast. Think insulation on a wire.
So like my brain needs its own insulation.
Exactly. Shows you how what you eat, it's not just your body, it's your brain that feels it too.
Okay, good to know. Brain food is important. All right, last one. And this one's straight up sci-fi. A piece of brain tissue the size of a grain of sand. You with me?
I'm with you.
It contains 100,000 neurons and a billion synapses. A billion with a B.
It's mind-blowing. Like imagine a city, right? Packed into a pinhead. That's your brain.
Maybe that's why social media makes me feel so drained my brain's overwhelmed.
Our poor brains weren't meant for this nonstop digital world. Speaking of overwhelming, let's talk about some of those brain myths we've all heard.
Oh, yes, like that we only use 10% of our brains. That's got to be a myth, right?
Totally. Busted. Brain scans show we use pretty much all of it, even when we're vegging out.
Phew. Imagine if we were only using 10%. The possibilities.
Right, we'd all have superpowers. But seriously, our brains are way more active than that myth suggests.
So what about this one left brain logical, right brain creative? Cliche, right?
Totally cliche, totally a myth. We use our whole brain. You can be logical, A&D, creative, no problem.
Thank goodness. What about this when alcohol kills brain cells?
True. Okay, so it's a bit more complicated than that. Heavy drinking, long-term, it can damage the connections between brain cells, but it's not like they vanish entirely. More like messing with the wiring, not a total blackout.
So not great, but not a complete brain cell massacre. Good to know. Speaking of things that might make our brains a little fuzzy, let's move on to memory. It's strange though, right? Like, we talk about remembering stuff, but it's not like our brains are recording everything perfectly. Or are they?
Oh, not even close. Think of it more like a messed up game of telephone with some puzzle pieces thrown in for fun.
So less high-def video playback, more like rummaging through my brain's junk drawer.
Exactly. Every time you remember something, you're not just watching a replay, you're reinterpreting, maybe even changing it a little. Based on how you feel now, what you know now.
A little unnerving, isn't it? My memories are basically unreliable narrators.
Kind of, but that's also what's so cool about memory, you know? Always changing, not just frozen in time. Like, there's a study on London cab drivers. Their brains actually grow bigger in the area for spatial memory, just from navigating those crazy streets.
Hold up, their brains physically change.
Yep. Shows how adaptable our brains are, constantly rewiring themselves based on what we experience. It's called neuroplasticity.
That's kind of hopeful because, there's that whole idea that our brains peak when we're young
Yeah.
and it's all downhill from there.
Nope, not at all. Some things might take a little longer as we get older, but think about it this way. You actually get better at some things. Vocabulary, knowledge that just keeps building.
Okay, so less getting slower, more getting wiser. I can work with that. So if our brains are so awesome, how do they compare to, like, artificial intelligence? Brain versus supercomputer, who wins?
Ooh, good question. Computers definitely have us beat on raw power and speed, for sure. Like, crunching numbers, that's their jam.
Yeah, no point in challenging a calculator to a math off. But what about creativity or intuition? Those gut feelings that computers don't have.
Now, that's where humans still have the edge. We see the big picture, make weird connections, come up with totally new solutions in a way that computers just can't yet. At least that's what we think.
So it's not just speed, it's how we understand things.
Exactly. And don't forget storage space, your brain. Pretty much unlimited storage. Computers, not so much.
Wait, seriously? My brain has more storage than my computer. Feels
Yeah.
like I hit my mental limit all the time.
We've all been there, but your brain's capacity? It's mind-blowing. We're talking petabytes of data.
Peter, what now?
Petabyte. It's like, imagine the entire internet. That's how much info your brain could theoretically hold.
My brain could hold the whole internet.
Yeah.
And here I am forgetting where I put my phone, like, every day.
Well, it's not always about storage, right? It's about finding the info when you need it, and that can get tricky.
Speaking of tricky, those brain moments where we totally trip ourselves up. Like cognitive biases. What are those again?
So, cognitive biases. Think of them like shortcuts our brain takes to process things fast. Usually helpful, but they can make us see things in a way that's not totally rational.
So like when you only read news that you already agree with, even if it might be wrong.
Exactly. Confirmation bias, super common one. Our brains love being right, even if it means ignoring other stuff.
Or how about that feeling where you're positive you remember something a certain way, then bam, totally wrong. Like my brain's playing tricks on me.
The good old fallibility of memory strikes again. Our memories aren't perfect recordings, unfortunately. They change over time, based on new things we experience, how we feel, even just time itself. It all has an impact.
It's kind of freaky though when you think about it, how much our memories can change without us even realizing it. Like we're rewriting our own life stories in our heads.
It really is. It's like our own personal choose-your-own-adventure, but with memories. And speaking of brains being strange and wonderful, did you know some people actually experience their senses all mixed together, called synesthesia?
Synesthesia, I've heard of that. Isn't that when people like taste colors or see sounds?
That's it. Their brain wiring's just a little different, so their senses get all jumbled up. Imagine tasting the word sunshine and it's actually sweet, or hearing a song and seeing colors.
That's so cool. It's like having a superpower.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if it's like similar to what people experience on those psychedelic drugs, the ones that mess with your senses.
Well, there are some interesting parallels for sure. But synesthesia is more like a built-in thing, not a temporary state. And actually, it's been linked to increased creativity. Some researchers even think folks like Billie Eilish or Beyonce it could explain their totally unique styles.
Wow, so maybe there's a method to the madness after all. Okay, before we wrap up, we got to talk about the second brain business. Is it true we've got a brain in our gut?
Okay, so not a brain exactly, but your gut does have tons of neurons all connected, forming what's called the enteric nervous system.
So like a mini brain controlling digestion and stuff.
More than that even. This gut-brain connection, it's linked to mood, your immune system, even your cravings. Like, did you know your gut makes most of your body's serotonin? The happy chemical?
Whoa, for real.
Yeah.
So when I get that gut feeling, it might actually be my second brain talking.
It's totally possible. Our bodies are way more interconnected than we realize.
This is blowing my mind. It's amazing how much we're learning about the brain and how much there still is to discover. Makes you really appreciate that 3 pounds of wonder we're carrying around.
For sure. Every answer just leads to more questions, which is what makes it so fascinating to study.
Right.
Mm.
So big thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into the brain. Don't forget to check out the show notes. We've got all the brain facts we talked about, plus links to learn even more. And be sure to let us know what your favorite brain fact is on social media. Until next time, keep those brains engaged.